Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the AAP-01 build. And if you haven't been following this build already, check out the video playlist that's in the top right hand section here. But this is the AAP-01 that we've been building. We put loads of parts in, but I did kind of miss two key elements doing first before we did like the externals and such. So the first one, or the second one, never mind which order we do them in, is the fancy trigger from Action Army, but probably most importantly is the steel hammer set from Action Army, because the Action Army AAP-01s have a known fault of the hammers breaking all the time, so it's probably best we change this first. So in this video we're going to be changing the hammer with a CNC steel hammer from Action Army. So let's get this thing out of the box here and we'll get this, and this is why I left the trigger, the hammer unit, up till now to do, just because it was going to be a bit more intensive and I wanted to get this part in there as well. So I'm going to pull this thing apart. If this was a normal AAP-01 and your magazine's out the gun, you could just pull this out. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that with the infinite kit in there, but we'll give it a go. If not, we'll just pop the screws out and pop the infinite kit out as well. So first of all, we're going to have to pop some pins out. I've got a pin there and a pin there, so we'll just push those out here. Should come out pretty damn easy. Yep. Just give it a nice big whack with the palm of your hand. 2 pins, and then we're going to lever the hammer assembly out. So we're going to need a flathead for that. Let's grab a flathead. We're just going to very carefully lever the hammer unit out of the lower, like so. The button's going to come off, so we'll just take that and put it to one side, and I'm hoping we can get this out without having to drop the infinite kit out. So let's see if we can do this. Looks like we're going to be able to do it. Yep, it's popped straight out, so we don't have to take the infinite kit out. And here is your hammer assembly. What I'm going to do, let's get you zoomed in here. Can we zoom in? No, it's not wanting to. And there is the hammer assembly. So we're going to take off this little piece on the side here. Be careful of that spring jumping out, it will want to do so. And this is dead simple to take apart, but there are a few springs that sit in place. So the first one that I'm going to take apart is the spring on the back here holding the valve knocker in. And what we're going to do, we're just going to knock this spring to one side and it should come out. Like so. That just means that's out the way and it's not going to fly off or do anything like that. And we need to punch out the pin to get the hammer and the hammer spring out. So we're going to push that pin out. It'll come out relatively easy. Just make sure you cradle it in your hands just so things don't jump out and go all over the place. Pull this pin out. Like so. We're going to take the hand pin, pop it to one side. And that will release your hammer. The little piece that sits there that rotates on the hammer, that comes out as well as the hammer spring. If you wanted to put a different hammer spring in, you can do that at the same time. So once that's out, we can actually pull the valve, knock it out, and we can pull the sear out just by pushing this pin out here. So we're just going to get a tool and just push that pin. Oh, it's actually come out itself by the magnetism of the tool there. So just pop that out. The spring and the sear will drop out, and then finally, to get your full auto sear out, it's very much the same thing, just another pin, and we're just going to push that. What I suggest is when pushing these, push the tool in so the tool holds the part in place, and then you don't have springs and parts flying off everywhere. And that is your hammer assembly completely disassembled. You can go ahead, do any kind of maintenance, fit, upgrade parts, and we're just going to do this in return or in reverse. We're going to take the full auto sear there, just pop the spring on like that, I'm going to pop the pin in most of the way there, and then set this in place. Push the pin in, and that is as simple as that. If it does pop out, just take it back out and just reseat it again. Just a final thing about the full auto series, just making sure that the spring's seated properly. And when it is seated properly, what you'll find is that you can push the part under spring tension and it should just rock nice and easy. So once it's assembled correctly, you should be able to rock that under spring tension, and that's how you know the full auto sear is seated properly. What you're going to do, you take the new hammer and the old hammer, of course. We're going to get that little rocker cam. We're going to install that onto the steel hammer. The AAPs originally came with like pot metal black hammers, and then they changed it to these silver ones, but they still break just as easy. There are, of course, many manufacturers out there that do hammers now, so it's not specifically the Action Army one that you need to fit. So on this spring, there are two parts of the spring that stick out, and you want the shorter one on that piece of the hammer there, and the longer one on the bottom. Then what you're going to have to do is rock. You want to catch that bottom part of the spring there that sticks out on that leading edge, and then sort of push and twist it round so it lines up with the hole. Then you'll take your hammer pin and insert it, and the reason we're inserting this now is going to become clear in just a moment. That will then hold the hammer in place, and then what we can do, we can back this pin out just so it leaves a gap in the center of the hammer there, and we can take our valve knocker and pop that into place. Like so. Sometimes they can be a bit tight just if your hammer twists under the spring tension. And then we're going to line up that slotted hole on the valve knocker. Just look through the hole just to make sure, and then we press the hammer pin into place. It's nice and seated there, so the hammer can now lock back. It will of course catch on the full auto sear because we don't have the semi-sear in just yet. We're going to take the semi-sear. What I like to do is put the pin in just slightly from the back there, and it's the higher of the two holes underneath the housing, of course, like so, and then I just pop the pin through the semi-sear, and then we can pop this spring in. Now we don't have to place this spring just yet, we just have to line it up with that hole, that same hole, and then we'll pop that pin through, which will hold the spring in place. And then what we can do, we can take a tool, flat-headed screwdriver, whatever you want to use, cock the hammer back so this sits further back, and we take this spring and we just latch it into that other hole on the valve knocker, like so. So we're just making sure that's pushed back, the hammer's cocked, ready to go, because then the valve knocker can sit back far enough. If you're trying to put that spring in with the valve knocker all the way forward, it's going to be a pain in the backside. And that is as easy as it is. It is a bit finicky. I mean, I have worked on these guns for a long time, so doing complex holding sort of poses while you're trying to get pins and stuff in. If you haven't got, basically what I'm trying to say, if your dexterity is not as good, just be patient, take your time with it. You can always start again. What you don't want to do is force something and break it. We're going to pop that spring into place there, and then we're just going to place your thumb just over the bottom of the recess where that spring goes, just like so. And then we're going to take the tab that sticks out and we're going to slide it into the spring. And that's going to compress the spring, and your thumb's holding it in place so it doesn't shoot out. And as long as you hold this part down, that's not going to go anywhere. So we've got our complete hammer assembly there. The hammer, that's the old one, we don't need that. We're going to set that back in place on the trigger arm and then slide it down into place. Now, if you're not running the Infinite kit, this is going to be a lot easier for you because you're not going to have it in the way. If you are running the Infinite kit, it's still fairly easy. You've just got to make sure everything's lined up properly, because the last thing you want to do is damage the valve or damage the HPA kit itself. So that's the hammer assembly back in. Pop the lower of the two pins back. That one's not quite as stiff as the top one. Just going to tap that into place. And there's going to be a loud noise here when I tap this in. And there we go. Your hammer assembly is now fixed into place. So let's do a function check. Let's reset the full auto sear there. Superb. These hammers are going to be so much more hard wearing and not break on you like the standard ones. Let's put the upper back on and check. This upper still is sticky. This upper receiver is £120, the barrel was 40. It is not worth that £120. It's so sticky. But the hammer works nice and well. It's full auto. Let's cock it first. Push the trigger. When we let go, there shouldn't be a click. Nope, there's not. So that's working as well. So that is how to take apart your hammer assembly and install an upgrade part. I highly recommend that's the first part that you replace on your AAP. It's probably the most important. Why I didn't start with a video on that, I don't know. But here's the video. We'll see you in the next one where we fit the Action Army upgrade trigger in a nice red to match the other parts. Thanks for watching.